It's time to make it, just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Welcome to another episode of You Can Make It with the Old Fat Guy. Today, I'm going to make gumbo. But I'm not just going to make any kind of gumbo, I'm going to make Canadian gumbo. Now, that sounds crazy because gumbo comes from Louisiana, but I have to take every recipe and make it the way I like it. So I've taken the regular Louisiana gumbo and added some things I like to it. So what we're going to start off with is making a roux. Now, for making gumbo, what they do in Louisiana is they take flour and oil and they put it on a fry pan and they stir it and stir it and stir it until it gets nice copper brown. But if they leave it just a bit too long or don't stir quite enough and get even the tiniest touch of black in it, it's ruined and you have to start over. So being a lazy Canadian, I choose to finish my roux in the oven, which has much less risk of burning the roux. Now, the way you make a roux for a gumbo is you start off with just some plain all-purpose flour and you turn a cold saucepan on to medium. There we go. And you put the flour in the pan. Now, you've got to stir this constantly. You're looking to turn the flour to be a light tan color. So this will take a few minutes, but you gotta hang in there and keep stirring until the color changes. We've been going for 3-4 minutes, and you'll see there's some moisture coming off of the flour, and it's starting to get a little bit of the tan color. Now you'll notice I used a really thick bottomed pan. You need a real thick bottomed pan to get even heat, or a thin cheap one would just burn this every time. So as it starts to get a bit of gold, it's critical it gets no black, just a light tan color. And this is getting very close. It's almost a light tan color. You can see it getting that little bit of sort of yellowish in there. And we're just, I'd say, just there now. So we're going to turn the heat off, and we're going to take this off the heat, and we're going to add 50 milliliters of vegetable oil. And then we can just push that when the oils are back over there just to cool down. Now you want to stir that in until the oil and the fat is mixed. And you can see it's a nice copper color already. So now what we're going to do is to get it just a little bit more toasted and a little darker is we're going to put it in the bottom rack, in the bottom rack as close as you can to the burners of your oven for 350 degrees for 35 minutes with the lid on. So we'll just put the lid on and fire it into the oven. I've taken the roux out of the oven, and we'll just have a look at it here. And you can see it's a nice copper color. That's exactly what we're looking for. So we're just going to stir it up a bit to make sure it's well mixed. That's just perfect. Okay, so now that it's all well mixed and we've got the oil all done into it, we're ready to do the rest of our gumbo. So what I've done is I put it on the cooktop here, and I'm going to turn it on to medium heat. There we go. And now that it's on medium heat, we're going to add what is known as the Holy Trinity in Louisiana, and that's green peppers, onions, and celery. So what we're going to do is we'll start off with 1 cup or 250 milliliters of onions and throw that into the roux. And 1 cup or 250 milliliters of chopped green pepper we'll throw into the roux. And 1 stalk of celery that's been chopped up. And we're just going to stir these in the roux until they're soft. Okay, you'll note that the onions and the celery are getting just a little soft and a little clear. That's the sign that you're getting close to the point where it's done. Just a few seconds longer here. Now you'll notice I had to keep stirring it the whole time because of the flour. You cannot afford to burn that roux. That looks pretty good. You can feel that they're a little soft, and that's what you're looking for. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add is what I like to call the fragrance. And what we have here are 3 cloves of garlic, finely chopped, 3 milliliters or a little over half a teaspoon of dried thyme, 8 milliliters or a teaspoon and a half of additional flour just for a bit more thickening, and half a milliliter of cayenne just for a touch of spice. Gumbo is not supposed to be really spicy, it's just supposed to have a little bit of flavor. So we'll put them in the pot, and now the trick here is to cook these until you can really smell the garlic and the thyme, because that means it is ready. It'll only take about 30 seconds, but by heating those before you add any liquid, you increase their flavor. Oh yeah, okay, I can smell the thyme and the garlic coming through. Only took about 35 or 40 seconds. And what we'll do now is we're going to add 1 cup of diced tomatoes. Now you can use canned tomatoes, but drain the liquid off them first. This is just some fresh tomatoes that I peeled and cored and chopped up. So we're going to add 1 cup of tomatoes. And you'll see there's a bit of liquid in there. You just want to cook it for a minute or so just to get the excess liquid off. Oh, I wish you could smell this. There you are. You see there's no liquid pooling? That's what you're looking for. Now the next ingredient is 500 milliliters or 2 cups of chicken stock. Now I've used homemade chicken stock, but you can use the stuff in a box or make some up from a can or whatever. I just think my homemade's better, but it's got to be at room temperature. If it's really hot, you stand a risk of getting some lumps in your soup. You don't want that. So just pour it in a little at a time and stir in the roux. You can see it's starting to turn into a nice texture. Go. Just stir it in gradually and you won't have any lumps. Oh, the color is gorgeous. There, we can pour it in a bit faster now that it's started to mix. And then I forgot to get one thing out, so give me a moment. I got to get 30 milliliters of soy sauce, and I forgot to measure that earlier because I'm not very bright. Got the soy sauce out, and I'm going to add 30 milliliters of soy sauce. Now, no really true Louisiana or Cajun person would ever put soy sauce in their gumbo. This is part of my Canadian gumbo. I like the umami flavor and color that the soy sauce gives to the broth. So I put soy sauce in for my Canadian gumbo. So now that you've got that mixed up and you've got the chicken stock, and you can turn your heat up a bit on your cooktop, and you're going to add chicken. And what I have here is 340 grams or 3/4 pound of cubed, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. So just add them to the broth and bring it to a boil. There we go. And we'll just bring this to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, we're going to turn it down and let it simmer for 30 minutes to cook the chicken. I'm sorry, but I'm hungry already just from watching this heat up. You can see the bubbles are just starting to come through in the broth. There we go. And so now we're going to lower the temperature on this to just let it simmer. There we go. And I'll put the lid on it and let it simmer for 30 minutes. And I'll see you then. Our gumbo's been simmering for 30 minutes and it looks and smells divine. And now comes one of my favorite ingredients, which is andouille. Andouille is a smoked Louisiana sausage. It's got a little bit of spice in it. It's absolutely delicious. Now, it's hard to get here in Canada, and if you can't get any, you can make a delicious soup by using kielbasa or Polish sausage or garlic sausage. Any of those will be fine, but it won't be the same. Andouille's way better. So if you can find some, good. If not, go with what you got to go with. So we'll just put that in to the soup. Now we want this to simmer for 10 minutes to allow the flavor to work through the gumbo. And I'll see you back. And I'm going to cover it and see you back in 10 minutes. The andouille is simmered for 10 minutes in the gumbo, and now comes the seafood. I am going to put in my Canadian addition to my Canadian gumbo, which is about 1/2 pound or 215 grams of scallops. Use the little ones. And the same amount of, you can use small shrimp or prawns cut into a bit smaller size. And throw them in. Now it's really important at this point that you bring it back to a boil, because you need those seafood to cook. And once it comes back to a boil, which should just take seconds over the higher heat, we're going to turn the heat down and simmer it for 10 minutes to cook the seafood. There we go. We got a nice bubbling. Make sure it was on the boil. Put the lid on and reduce the heat. And we'll see you in 10 minutes. So the gumbo is simmered with the scallops and prawns in it for another 10 minutes, and it's now ready to try. Now, the traditional way of serving a gumbo for a meal is to put some rice in a bowl. Just put a nice spoonful of rice in the bottom of a bowl, and then serve the gumbo over it. Now, you don't have to do that. You can just have it like you would any other soup. And I don't like a bit of rice in the bottom of my gumbo, so you just put that in the bowl and put a little bit of the soup over the top. Gee, do you think I should try it? I think so. Let's just give it a bite full here. Such complex flavors. There's the garlic. There's the richness of the roux. There's the prawns, which give it a richness. The scallops, which give it a little bit of chew. The chicken, which gives it some body. The vegetables in the Holy Trinity are just incredible in anything. This is one of the best soups you will have ever had, and the best part is, you can make it.
I have a good woman, I ain't good looking, but I do some cooking, I'm the old fat guy. So use that oven if you want some lovin', be like the old fat guy. like the old fat guy.